Flat on your stomach. I can't breathe. Flat on your stomach.
We heard it from George Floyd in Minneapolis and Eric Garner in New York. And now you're hearing it for the first time from Javier Ambler in Austin, Texas, a 40-year-old black man, former college football player, and father of 2 boys.
Javier Ambler. You probably haven't heard his name yet. And that's because ever since he died in the custody of Williamson County Sheriff's deputies in March of last year, there have been no public statements, no records released, and not even Mr. Ambler's own family knew the circumstances that led to his death.
But the KVUE defenders and senior investigative reporter Tony Plohetsky found out and started looking into the case 4 months ago. Now, we have the documents and the body cam video to give you the most complete picture yet of what happened to Javier Ambler.
We want to let you know that video shows the final moments of Mr. Ambler's life, and you may find it disturbing. But we think it's important that you have the chance to see it. So if you don't want to, go ahead and step away now. Here's Tony.
He's still westbound St. John's. Two local units. St. John. 1050, he just crashed. Just crashed right in front of me.
It was a car crash that quickly touched off a fatal encounter with deputies from the Williamson County Sheriff's Office.
Put your hands behind your back.
A scene all too familiar.
Flat on your stomach. Flat on your stomach. Flat on your stomach.
An African-American driver, Javier Ambler, returning home from a poker night with friends at 1:23 in the morning on March 28, 2019, soon dead on an Austin street. 15 months later, his mother's grief so painfully raw.
I said, "What happened to my son?" He said, "He's dead." And I asked him, I said, "He's dead how? What happened?" And I just lost it.
She's desperate for details about her son's final moments.
Every day I just think about him. I want to know, give me some kind of information. I need to know what happened to my baby. I need to know.
Until now, all investigators have told her is that her son died that night in police custody. Ambler's parents have lived with the torment of an unanswered question: why deputies would have wanted to stop him in the first place.
We now know that whatever happened started because Javier failed to dim his headlights.
This is the first time I'm hearing about that.
The KVUE defenders began looking into Ambler's death in February. For 3 months, Williamson County Sheriff's officials refused to release any information about what happened that night. Then they were left with little choice. On May 28th, just as a national outrage started over the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Williamson County officials released some records after the Texas Attorney General ordered them. Because deputies chased Ambler into Austin, his death is being investigated by APD and the DA's Civil Rights Division. We received this body camera video separately after it was made public over the weekend by the Austin Police Department with the backing of Travis County DA Margaret Moore.
Hey, big man, other hand now. Other hand. Put it out there. Other hand. Give me your hand. I'm going to take flat on your stomach. 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 Stop resisting. Stop resisting. Stop. You need to I'm not resisting. Stop resisting. Jack, I can't breathe. Put your hands behind your back. Let go. Do what we're asking you. Roll over. Do it now. Get on your stomach. Do it now. Roll over. Do it now. Roll over. Get his hand out. I'm pretty sure it's from this finger. Look up. See if it's pulse. Negative. Negative. Hey, flatten him on his back. Gotta get him off the curb.
We have not yet received dash camera video from Deputy J.J. Johnson, who initiated the traffic stop and chased Ambler for 22 minutes before he crashed just north of downtown Austin. But this internal affairs report gives the deputies perspective, and it makes clear that deputies chased Ambler because he failed to dim his headlights to oncoming traffic. It said Deputy Johnson and Deputy Zach Camden, who showed up as backup, tased Ambler 4 times after he refused to comply with their commands. The report concluded that neither deputy violated the department's pursuit or use of force policies, and there are no indications any deputy was disciplined. A separate in-custody death report filed with the AG's office says Ambler died of, quote, congestive heart failure and hypertensive cardiovascular disease associated with morbid obesity in combination with forcible restraint. His death ruled a homicide. In addition to a traffic ticket, the report notes that the most serious charge Ambler faced at the time of his death was evading arrest, a low-level felony. The reports give no indication of why he fled deputies.
Anything else I'm gonna run across in the car?
Deputy Johnson has been a regularly featured deputy on the TV reality show Live PD and had a film crew riding with him that night.
It is a very, very serious concern to any of us who are in law enforcement that the decision to engage in that chase was driven more by a need to provide entertainment than it was to keep Williamson County residents safe.
D.A. Moore says detectives also are frustrated a fellow law enforcement agency hasn't cooperated fully with the investigation for more than a year.
The investigators charged with the responsibility of determining what happened and thoroughly investigating this case, as there is their usual practice, feel that they have been stonewalled.
And Moore says Live PD so far has refused to supply any footage from that night. She says she is now planning to take the case to a grand jury. In a statement today, Williamson County Sheriff Robert Chody said that because of the ongoing criminal investigation, he could not comment.
Dad shouldn't have to bury his son, but it's not up to me.
Ambler's father is now retired from the Army, now forced to get VA counseling over the loss of his son. His mother, so grief-stricken, she was forced to retire from her job. And the entire family never imagining they would become part of a national conversation about race and law enforcement.
That's my boy. That's our firstborn. This gotta stop.
With photojournalist Brian Bell, Tony Plahetsky, KVUE News.
Breaking news tonight, a cable TV show that once featured Williamson County deputies has now been canceled.
A&E will no longer air the show Live PD after what it calls, quote, critical time in our nation's history. In that show, live crews rode around with police forces across the country to show what officers deal with in real time. The cancellation comes just 2 days after the KVUE Defenders told you about the death of Javier Ambler in Williamson County. Live PD crews were on the scene last March with those deputies when they chased Ambler for not dimming his headlights. After they caught him in Austin, they tased him multiple times. And in Austin police body camera footage, you can hear Ambler telling deputies he couldn't breathe and that he had a heart condition. Ambler died a short time later. The show's producers told us their footage of this incident was never aired, so they got rid of it.
And we begin with breaking news. Investigators are now looking into possible evidence tampering in the case of an unarmed black man who died in Williamson County custody. Now, we were the first to tell you about the death of Javier Ambler. A warning, the video we're about to show from that incident is disturbing. Last week, an investigation by the KVUE defenders included body cam video showing the moments leading up to Javier Ambler's death. Back in March 2019, deputies chased Ambler's vehicle from Williamson County for more than 20 minutes into Austin because he failed to dim his headlights to oncoming traffic. Deputies say Ambler resisted arrest as they struggled to place him in handcuffs. On the body cam video, you can hear Ambler telling deputies multiple times he couldn't breathe and had a heart condition. Records show a taser was used on him at least 3 times. He lost consciousness and died. Today, the Travis County and Williamson County District Attorneys released a statement saying they're working on a joint investigation of Ambler's death. And the Williamson County District Attorney says his office is investigating, quote, possible tampering with evidence by personnel from Williamson County agencies who have had contact or communications with the television show Live PD, end quote. Now, crews from that show recorded the incident, but representatives for the show say that footage never aired and they no longer have it.
By his own admission, Ramsey Mitchell was often no model citizen. His arrest record spans 2 decades: burglary, drug possession, evading arrest.
Sheriff, have you been arrested for anything?
His last confrontation with police, captured on the reality show Live PD, ended with a mugshot showing his black eye and bruised head. As this Live PD video shows, it started when Williamson County Sheriff's Deputy Zach Camden pulled Mitchell's black Chevy sedan over for not having a front license plate.
Hey buddy, what's your name?
Over the next 2 minutes, as the incident played out on national TV, Deputy J.J. Johnson and Detective Mark Luera
So we're smelling alcohol within the vehicle.
noticed the smell of alcohol. Then, as Camden is frisking Mitchell, he bolts. The fight plays out for about 2.5 minutes before 2 more deputies arrive and finally get Mitchell in handcuffs. The case received little public attention at the time, aside from a group of Mitchell's friends testifying a year ago at Williamson County Commissioner's Court.
Because I like Williamson County. I think it's a wonderful place to live. But the excessive force by law enforcement is just not acceptable to me.
But now what happened to Mitchell is back in focus. The KVUE defenders were the first to reveal the case of Javier Ambler last month. Ambler, a 40-year-old former postal worker, ran from deputies Johnson and Camden the night of March 28, 2019, after failing to dim his headlights. It ended 22 minutes later in this violent clash in North Austin, with Ambler telling deputies he had a heart condition and couldn't breathe moments before he died. The 2 cases have striking similarities. Besides involving the same 2 deputies, they also involve drivers who were being stopped for minor traffic crimes that quickly escalated to violent encounters. Now, some officials wonder whether or not these 2 cases reveal a larger pattern of questionable force.
When you start to look at things in context and you see how close in time Ramsey Mitchell's case happened to Javier Ambler's case, combined with a couple other cases that we've been looking at, I think Ramsey Mitchell now puts all those cases in a better context and needs to be looked at in a broader context.
Williamson County District Attorney Sean Dick said his office did a preliminary investigation into what happened to Mitchell last year, but he would not say what specifically troubles him about Mitchell's arrest. Dick also would not release specifics of at least 5 other cases he's investigating, the type of force each involved, or when they happened. Internally, it is not clear how sheriff's officials investigated the force against Mitchell. They have not responded to our questions or requests for information. In a statement, attorneys for Camden and Johnson said, quote, The specific incident occurred and was broadcast on television and uploaded to YouTube over a year ago. Although it is receiving newfound media attention, we think the passage of that much time with no prosecutorial action sufficiently indicates there was never any legal issue here. In a letter to county leaders last year, Mitchell apologized for trying to escape, but said, quote, "The extent of my injuries was not commensurate with the amount of effort needed to stop me from running." Now, a year later, and knowing the details of Ambler's case,
no one deserved to be beat like that.
Mitchell's friend, Rebel Sanders, wonders if the two cases reveal something that deserves deeper scrutiny.
As far as the department as a whole, I think they need to have a house cleaning. I mean, it seems like more and more stories are coming out about Williamson County.
For the KVUE Defenders, Tony Plahetsky, KVUE News.
It's our top story tonight. A SWAT team takedown inside a Cedar Park family's home shown on live television just hours after deputies bypassed a chance to peacefully arrest a man when he was in court. Now, 1 month after the KVUE Defenders first revealed the story of Javier Ambler's death while in the custody of Williamson County Sheriff's deputies, the Williamson County Sheriff's Office faces a new round of questions about its tactics and relationship with the now canceled show, Live PD. Now, the man arrested and others believe the department staged the military-style raid, all for reality television. Here's senior reporter Tony Plahetsky.
A quiet house in a peaceful neighborhood that became the scene of a dramatic police takedown.
Before I could even get up and get to the door, every room in the house was covered with people in assault gear.
We're live in Williamson County, Texas.
And it all played out on national TV.
I saw the people coming in with the guns, and that really, I just did that. Shaken.
On Thursday, May 2nd, 2019, the Williamson County Sheriff's SWAT team mounted a full-scale operation to arrest Asher Watzke at his father's house for an alleged assault on his roommate.
I can't describe it. Like, I froze. I was, like, frozen with fear, and I was super scared.
He was yelling, "Dad, Dad, Dad," and they were telling him, just be quiet. And I was telling him, look, whatever they do, just do what they want, stay calm, whatever they ask, just do it.
But there is a reason Watzke's highly weaponized arrest is so shocking.
If they had wanted to really arrest him and they were trying to do it in a civil, proper way, they had him in the courthouse.
His arrest came just 3.5 hours after Watzke sat peacefully in a courtroom.
It was all for TV. It was all for show.
That afternoon, the 24-year-old had walked out of the Williamson County Justice Center after a pretrial hearing on a related charge. Like every visitor, he went through metal detectors and stood feet away from armed court bailiffs who all work for Sheriff Robert Chody. By all accounts, Williamson County Sheriff's officials never planned to quietly arrest Asher Watzke. His family, lawyers, and experts say they suspect it was all staged for the cable reality show Live PD.
The second I saw a camera, I'm aware of the Live PD program, so I figured out, like, right then when I first saw it, I had a feeling of what was going on.
The department's handling of Watzke's arrest, revealed for the first time by the KVUE Defenders, places new scrutiny on an agency already under fire. Last month, we brought you the story of Javier Ambler, who died after deputies tased him 4 times, seconds before he died. That incident, also recorded by Live PD and shown in this body camera footage, never aired on the show. Court records indicate police first arrested Asher Watzke in September 2018 after his roommate said he was severely injured in an altercation. Police charged Watzke with assault family violence and he was released on bond. For 7 months, he showed up on time for court.
Anything else that they really asked, I'd be willing to do. Been passing drug tests and living up to everything, haven't missed a date, and just doing my best.
What Watzke and his attorney say they did not know until after the raid is that a grand jury indicted him on a second charge stemming from another incident with his roommate. That indictment, alleging that Watzke used a shovel to assault him, automatically triggered a new arrest warrant. But that arrest warrant had been on the books 15 days before Watzke came to court. Williamson County District Attorney Sean Dick and others wondered why courthouse security did not arrest Watzke when he came to court that day, just like they do all the time with other defendants who have pending warrants. The DA did not want to go on camera, but he said sheriff's officials told him they made Watzke's warrant inactive that day so no one would see it. They thought Watzke was a violent threat and said arresting him with the SWAT team was the safest way.
He does have an extensive history for narcotics use. He obviously has got a background of violence.
That's Detective Mark Luera as the SWAT team rolled up to the house. Nothing the detective says about Watzke's history is supported by court documents or publicly available law enforcement records. Watzke's only previous arrest was for misdemeanor marijuana possession.
It's very concerning to me.
National law enforcement consultant Jeff Noble says police agencies rarely rely on the same tactics that deputies used in Watzke's arrest. Many consider them dangerous to officers, the public, and the suspects themselves.
So that's not the type of a situation you take lightly, but at the same time, it's not the type of situation you would normally, I would expect a SWAT team to make an entry into a home to make an arrest.
Noble says he too is left with the same disturbing suspicion.
That this was staged for the value of live television.
It's not the first time someone has raised the possibility in the department's 2-year run on live PD. Sheriff Chody did not respond to our interview request. But this was his response at a commissioners' meeting last May.
I'm just asking in general, do we delay, do we change our process, do we do anything in order for the camera to be able to film it?
No, not that I'm aware of, no.
But the Watzkes feel differently. More than a year later, they are still badly shaken.
It's been tough.
The raid left their home with thousands of dollars in damage.
But frightened in my own home, even after all of this, even today. The doorbell rings, Asher runs to the other room.
But they are also left with a feeling that their confidence in local law enforcement is shattered.
I said to one of the officers as they were getting ready to leave, stone cold face, in his riot gear. And I said, I looked at him and said, you should be ashamed of yourself for what you've done. And he just looked at me. Most people do not deserve to be treated that way, no matter what.
3 former sheriff's investigators told the KVUE defenders that they often felt pressured by supervisors to get warrants for people whose arrest could be filmed for live PD. One of them said he did complain to supervisors but felt his concerns went unheard. For the KVUE defenders, Tony Plahetsky, KVUE News.
I just want to go in. Stop.
Listen to
Don't stop refusing.
Another dramatic use of force incident by a Williamson County Sheriff's Department deputy uncovered by the KVUE defenders. This time a woman reported to be a domestic violence victim, sparking more concern about the department. This particular incident, caught on body camera video, comes to light as outside officials launch the latest investigation into the actions of Williamson County deputies. Here's senior reporter Tony Plahetsky.
I need to see victim. I need to see if she needs EMS. Where's she at?
You're watching body camera video as Williamson County Sheriff's deputies respond to an emergency call from neighbors about a possible case of domestic violence in a nearby apartment. Rookie Deputy Amanda Pereira, just 3 months out of the academy, is the first to make contact with the suspected victim the evening of September 21st, 2019.
So what happened?
Nothing.
Yes. And make sure you're okay.
I'm fine, ma'am.
So
I'm fine. Like literally, I'm fine.
Okay.
The 20-year-old woman immediately expresses hesitation.
Do not want to talk to you, and especially Williamson County. Y'all have a really bad reputation. I have bad encounters with y'all. I do not want
I'm
to
not gonna hurt you.
I know you aren't.
For the next 3 minutes, the deputy and alleged victim have a calm conversation.
So what?
We got into an argument.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
And the woman insists that her boyfriend is gone.
So he left? He left. You don't know which way he went?
I don't know, and if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Deputy Pereira instructs the woman to go back inside while she consults with other deputies on their way. Up until now, everything has remained calm.
I got her name and date of birth. She doesn't want to be cooperative. I see some marks on her neck that might be fresh.
Then Deputy Lorenzo Hernandez, a department training officer, arrives.
Who else is in here? My sister. No, I really don't. You really don't. What the are you doing? Man. What the This is tracking. What the
Deputy Hernandez, this vantage point from his body cam, grabs the woman and takes her to the ground. Again, she is a suspected domestic violence victim. Over the next 30 seconds, what had been a stable scene only moments earlier erupts into a frantic, chaotic encounter as a third deputy, David Dickerson, arrives.
Stop. It's just stop. Okay, well stop.
The three deputies handcuff the woman and eventually take her to the ground.
We're just trying to talk to you and make sure you're okay.
You're hurting me though. You're hurting me more than
Over the past several weeks, we've been in touch with that young woman's family. They say she doesn't want to talk publicly about what happened that night. But experts say what is so striking about what we see in these videos is that she had not been accused of a crime and was not physically resisting. And advocates for domestic violence survivors point out that while the deputies were sent to help her, they may have only traumatized her more.
Okay, quit talking.
Please let me get up, please.
Quit talking.
You're hurting.
Quit talking. Shut your mouth and quit talking, okay?
The 20-year-old woman remained handcuffed for several minutes as deputies Hernandez and Dickerson, with their guns drawn, searched what turned out to be an empty apartment.
Get in there and make yourself known.
Then they finally take the woman back inside and unlatch her handcuffs.
When we come to stuff like this, we're going to check for safety reasons, okay?
Hernandez began lecturing the woman.
I understand you don't want to cooperate. We can't force you to do that. We get that. We understand that. But you don't do what you just did. Not when we show up for something like this. We don't get your cooperation. That is what happens.
Yes.
Okay? All this screaming, all this does not make us stop. Okay?
You're re-victimizing the victim.
We showed the videos to one of the nation's leading law enforcement experts. Timothy Williams helped the Los Angeles Police Department develop domestic violence policies and procedures.
What you saw was wrong. That's not the training you receive. That's the opposite of de-escalation. That's escalation.
An internal affairs investigation agreed. This week, Williamson County Sheriff's officials confirmed that they looked into the matter at the time and suspended Deputy Hernandez for a day because, quote, his failure to properly de-escalate the incident is unacceptable. Sheriff's officials also required him to be retrained and removed him from being a training officer. But 2 months later, they promoted him to detective.
My first thought was, if this survivor needs help again, would she feel safe calling?
Nikita Ved, legal services director for the nonprofit Safe Austin, said domestic violence survivors often need police to help calm them.
What a survivor does not need is more power and control being asserted over them.
Hernandez joined the Williamson County Sheriff's Office in September 2017 as part of a new group of deputies hired under Sheriff Robert Chody. He previously worked for the Bastrop County Sheriff, who suspended Hernandez for 12 hours without pay months earlier after he left his gun at a Wingstop restaurant. Since then, he was featured on the show Live PD, and 3 months before the encounter with the woman, was involved in a controversial use of force in the arrest of Ramsey Mitchell, which remains under investigation.
We don't get your cooperation. That is what happens.
Yes.
Okay?
But nearly a year after that night, we have learned that the Texas Rangers and Williamson County prosecutors have opened an investigation into what happened. and are reviewing it as a possible case of excessive force. Sheriff's officials say they welcome the investigation.
We have a job to do. Whether you understand it in the moment, I don't care.
That night, 17 minutes after they first got to the apartment, deputies ended the encounter with this domestic violence victim.
Troubled past, but patrolling Williamson County. A KVUE Defenders investigation reveals Sheriff Robert Chody has repeatedly hired officers with tarnished badges and added them across all ranks. Now, some have quietly moved forward after Chody rebooted their careers, but others have brought new questions about the department's culture, use of force, and the role of the now canceled show Live PD. We do want to warn you, some of the video in this story is disturbing. Here's senior reporter Tony Plohetsky.
On the streets of Williamson County.
So have you been drinking anything today?
No. And on the show Live PD.
Do me a favor and step out of the car real quick, okay?
Deputy Mark Luera speaks with a knowledgeable, tough tone.
I'm not gonna tell you again.
That made him a reality TV star. Sheriff Robert Chody constantly promoted Luera's Live PD role, calling him a true leader and a Wilco rock star.
Are you okay, man? Like, sweat is just pouring off you right now, brother.
But Deputy Mark Luera is also a disgraced former Austin police officer. Sheriff Chody swore Luera in as his newest deputy in November 2017. That was just 3 days after Luera quit the Austin Police Department as he faced being fired. 6 months earlier, Luera swiped his special clearance badge at Austin's airport 9 times to slip his family and 2 friends past TSA screening. According to records obtained by the KVUE Defenders, Luera was dishonest to fellow officers who confronted him. Luera paid local and federal fines and lost his security clearance. In a disciplinary report, APD Chief Brian Manley said Luera's actions will, quote, compromise his credibility as a witness if he continues to serve as a police officer. Sheriff Chody promoted Luera to detective within a year and a half, then bypassed more senior officers 4 months after that to elevate him to lieutenant last year. Luera is just one of several deputies hired by Chody in the past 3 years with significant disciplinary histories.
Law enforcement officers have the power to take away a citizen's freedom and even in very rare instances to take away life. And you simply cannot entrust that to someone about whom there is any doubt.
Sheriff Chody appointed some of his hires to top-level positions.
My name's Steve Deaton. I'm a commander with the Williamson County Sheriff's Office.
Commander Steve Deaton retired from the Austin Police Force in 2016. He had been suspended for inappropriate comments about another officer's disciplinary case. The following year, in an embarrassing blunder, Deaton was reprimanded after leaving his badge and gun in a Target shopping cart. Chody hired Deaton as his patrol commander. But Chody's decision to hire officers with troubled histories has also included the rank and file.
Before you start reaching around, do you have any weapons on you or in the car?
Like Luera, Deputy J.J. Johnson also became a Live PD star.
My dream agency, when I got into this job, it just took me about 7 years to make it back here.
In 2005, Johnson was listed in an Austin police report about an assault case that officers later deemed mutual combat. No charges were filed. And while working as a Bastrop Sheriff's deputy, he was suspended for crashing his patrol car in 2016. Johnson often patrols with Deputy Zach Camden, who also came from Bastrop County. Camden joined the agency 4 months after Johnson, and he brought an extensive disciplinary file. In his last 5 months as a Bastrop deputy, he was on supervisors' radar at least 3 times, including for possibly violating a homeowner's constitutional rights in an illegal search. Before that, while working for the Ingleside Police Department, he was disciplined for showing up late and being dishonest about what time he was told to arrive at work.
With any organization, your people are that organization.
Texas requires law enforcement agencies to contact a sheriff's deputy or police officer's previous employers before hiring them, but nothing requires them to heed any red flags or warning signs. In most cases, hiring decisions are solely the discretion of an agency. In June, the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement completed an investigation into whether Williamson County met minimal background standards, but found no violations. But it still noted that 3 Williamson County background investigators revealed that the department appeared to ignore troubling records of at least 3 applicants and hire them anyway.
He was looking for reality stars.
Mike Clear, former president of the Williamson County Deputies Association, said he believes Chody often preferred applicants willing to play to live PD cameras.
If you're looking for guys that are chasing Hollywood lights with blue lights, you're going to get exactly what we got, and that is a disaster.
Chody has now been forced to confront consequences of his hirings. Johnson and Camden have been involved in 2 controversial use of force cases. As we first revealed in June, the 2 deputies chased Javier Ambler for 22 minutes after he failed to dim his headlights in March 2019. They used their tasers on Ambler 4 times as he shouted that he couldn't breathe. Ambler died moments later, and the case remains under investigation. The next month, Chody reprimanded Deaton for inappropriate remarks about a female live PD producer.
Was there a comment made? Absolutely, but a comment that can be addressed with an oral reprimand.
As problems piled up for the Sheriff's Department, Luera led a controversial raid in the arrest of Asher Wadsky, and what critics said was staged for live PD, when Wadsky had just been in court hours earlier. 1 month later, Johnson and Camden, this time with Luera, were all involved in the controversial arrest of Ramsey Mitchell last June. Mitchell, who was wanted on drug charges, was left badly injured after he tried to run. The Texas Rangers are now investigating. Then finally, Deaton sparked outrage last summer after Williamson County residents discovered disturbing posts on his Facebook page.
This kind of thing not only damages the image of the local sheriff's department, but of law enforcement everywhere.
Deaton resigned a month later. But the other deputies all remain on the force, and Chody has taken no disciplinary action against them. In a statement, the Sheriff's Office says each applicant's life history is reviewed. This includes all the pluses and minuses. The position of this agency is to review each applicant on an individual basis. In June, Chody fired Clear. Now able to speak freely, he says Chody is taking the department in an alarming direction.
What does right look like now with the Williamson County Sheriff's Office? What is our moral barometer? And I tell you, after being here for 6 years, I can tell you that it's gone the wrong way.
Sheriff officials point out that some of the deputies they hired also had accolades and commendations. Lieutenant Mark Luera did not return our messages for comment, and former Commander Steve Deaton declined to comment. Attorneys for Deputies Johnson and Camden say they were hired when they were ready for the job. In Williamson County, for the KVUE Defenders, Tony Plahetsky, KVUE News.
More controversy out of the Williamson County Sheriff's Office uncovered by the KVUE Defenders. Deputies rewarded with gift cards for using force during arrests. That allegation comes as the KVUE Defenders continue their investigation into the department, which remains under scrutiny for high-profile and controversial use of force encounters. Here's senior reporter Tony Plahetsky.
Gift cards for using force. It's a claim that surfaced last October when a Texas Ranger interviewed former Deputy Chris Pisa, who was under an excessive force investigation himself. The KVUE Defenders obtained a portion of that recorded interview with the Ranger, where Pisa says former Williamson County Sheriff's Office Commander Steve Deaton determined who got the cards.
My understanding is you're saying that, and correct me if I'm mistaken, that it's known that Commander Deaton gives out gift cards to steakhouses or wherever for people for using force, or what's your understanding?
A good use of force.
For a good use of force, yes, and what do you mean by a good use of force?
He had the intention that we were all like Wilco badass, and if you went out there and did your job and you had to use force on somebody and he agreed with it, you could get a gift card.
Okay. Who do you know that received gift cards for this?
I never actually saw gift cards, but I've heard people, a couple of deputies told me that they received gift cards.
Anybody specifically told you that they got one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who's that?
That would be Deputy James Johnson, Zach Camden.
Those two deputies, J.J. Johnson and Zach Camden, are the same deputies involved in a lethal use of force encounter with Javier Ambler in March 2019. As we first reported in June, they chased Ambler for 22 minutes in a pursuit that started when he failed to dim his headlights. The deputies used tasers on Ambler 4 times as he shouted that he had congestive heart failure and could not breathe. He died a short time later. Former Deputy Pisa did not say for what case he believes Johnson and Camden received gift cards. Attorneys for Deputies Johnson and Camden would not comment. Sheriff Robert Chody said in a statement, quote, "Literally the only use of cards I recall specifically was for a deputy who was able to recover some excellent fingerprints that ended up helping the investigation resulting in a warrant for that suspect and for a capture of a burglary suspect. I have no idea what good use of force means." Former Deputy Pisa was not available for an interview, and an investigation into his use of force is still ongoing. A former department sergeant also said he was familiar with the practice of rewarding gift cards for what agency officials deemed good uses of force. Law enforcement experts say doing so would be highly unusual and that most agencies find other ways to reward exemplary behavior. In Williamson County, for the KVUE Defenders, Tony Plahetsky, KVUE News.
A Williamson County grand jury is now weighing whether anyone will face criminal charges in the destruction of live PD video that captured the death of Javier Ambler last year. The investigation comes months after the KVUE Defenders first reported details about Ambler's death, and the show announced it destroyed the video after Sheriff Robert Chody told them it was not needed. Senior reporter Tony Plahetsky joins us live now from Williamson County's Criminal Justice Center, where the grand jury's been meeting for weeks now. Tony?
And Brian, multiple deputies we have confirmed have been called in to testify to this grand jury. And now we have learned that Sheriff Robert Chody has hired a high-profile Austin defense attorney to represent him in this matter. That attorney is not commenting.
It shows the general public what our deputies must be dealing with on a daily basis.
When Sheriff Robert Chody first brought live PD to Williamson County, he promoted it by saying the reality show would bring transparency to law enforcement. But 2 years later, Williamson County prosecutors and a grand jury are investigating why the video in the death of Javier Ambler was destroyed. This body camera video shows the final moments of Ambler's life after deputies J.J. Johnson and Zach Camden chased him in a pursuit that started after he failed to dim his headlights. The deputies tased Ambler 4 times, and he died a short time later, all while live PD filmed. Legal experts say grand jurors, in addition to hearing testimony from deputies at the scene and others involved in the investigation, also likely will consider other information already made public. That includes Sheriff Chody's phone records, released under the Texas Public Information Act, and a list of people he called. And information from the county's general counsel, Jason Nassour, who was at the scene that night and said he met with live PD crews. Nassour later made inaccurate statements, telling the Williamson County Sun newspaper, quote, "I asked if they had video of the chase or of the events that took place after the chase. They stated they had no footage as their batteries died a couple of hours earlier." But we now know the video did exist and that live PD filmed Ambler's final moments. Nassour's attorney also is declining to comment on the investigation. And Brian, there is no word on how long this grand jury investigation may last. Again, they could possibly bring indictments or do nothing in this case.
So, Tony, if there are charges, what will those possible charges be here?
Well, what legal experts tell us, Brian, and what DA Sean Dick has said publicly is that they are looking at whether or not there was evidence tampering. Under state law, that is a felony. In most cases, it is punishable by up to 2 years in prison or a $10,000 fine. Brian?
Tony Plahetsky live for us in Williamson County this evening. Tony, thank you very much for the update.
A Williamson County grand jury has just indicted Williamson County Sheriff Robert Chody. Now, these charges are related to the case of Javier Ambler, who died in custody when deputies took him into custody back in 2019. Our own Defender's senior reporter Tony Plahetsky has been following this case from the very beginning. He joins us live from the Williamson County Criminal Justice Complex with the very latest. And Tony, what have you learned about this?
And this all being confirmed just within the last few minutes. It is according to records that have been posted on the Williamson County Criminal Justice website. And that website is confirming within the last few minutes that Williamson County Sheriff Robert Chody has been indicted on a charge of evidence tampering, as has the county's general counsel, Jason Nassour. We are still learning more details about these charges. What exactly are the next steps for the sheriff, obviously the county's leading law enforcement official, but also an attorney who, again, is a leading executive in county government here as well, Jason Nassour. Evidence tampering charges are both felony charges. They face possibly time in prison if convicted of these charges. Obviously, though, there is a long time between now, the date that these charges have been filed, and any possible outcome. But this all goes back to the death of Javier Ambler that happened in March 2019. It was a chase that started because Javier Ambler failed to dim his headlights, and the pursuit lasted 22 minutes going into the city of Austin. That is where deputies used tasers on Javier Ambler. They tased him 4 times, according to records. Javier Ambler died a short time later. We first revealed the death of Javier Ambler in June. That was based on reporting that we actually started back in February. And as we reported in June, Travis County District Attorney Margaret Moore said at the time that sheriff's officials had stonewalled, according to her, the investigation. We saw the Williamson County District Attorney Sean Dick and DA Margaret Moore, Travis County DA Margaret Moore, open a joint investigation within days of our reporting on Javier Ambler's death. They said they were going to be looking into possible evidence tampering charges. That came after Live PD said that they had destroyed video in Javier Ambler's death. We know that the reality TV show Live PD was with those 2 deputies the night that they encountered Javier Ambler and chased him. And again, this all culminating right now with evidence tampering charges against the sitting sheriff here in Williamson County, Robert Chody, as well as the county's general counsel, Jason Nassour. That is what we know at this time. Obviously, we have been reaching out to attorneys for both Jason Nassour and Robert Chody. They have not made any sort of public statements yet. Neither has District Attorney Sean Dick or Travis County District Attorney Margaret Moore, whose office has been involved in this investigation as well. In a virtual news conference today, the father of Javier Ambler wept, recounting the loss to his family last year. And attorney Benjamin Crump, who also represents the family of George Floyd, said Ambler's death cries out for justice. This is body camera footage from Ambler's final moments. Ambler died after Williamson County deputies chased him in March 2019 after he failed to dim his headlights, and they tased him 4 times, all while crews from the reality TV show Live PD filmed. The case received no public attention until June, when the KVUE defenders revealed details of what happened. In today's news conference, Ambler's father says not a day goes by that he does not miss or think about his son.
And my boy, my foxhole buddy, I'm not gonna have him again. I'm so sorry, but I get emotional anytime I hear anything about my son. He was my firstborn. He was my firstborn, you know? And I'm here to tell you, they took him away, and let me get myself together. They took him away from me way too early. He was supposed to bury me. And I was hoping for somebody to pinch me and just tell me, hey, this is just a bad dream.
Attorney Ben Crump has now joined the case. Crump also represents the family of George Floyd, who died after an encounter with Minneapolis police in May, touching off protests around the nation. Crump says the two cases have several things in common, including that both Ambler and Floyd told law enforcement that they could not breathe. Williamson County says it does not comment on pending litigation. Back to you.
Flat on your stomach, flat on your stomach, flat on your stomach, flat on your stomach.
Javier Ambler was tased 4 times as he begged for his life. 6 months ago, the KVUE defenders revealed what happened to him in custody of Williamson County Sheriff's deputies. Now, Texas state lawmakers are vowing to prevent situations like this in the future. They're proposing legislation that takes aim at what they say created a toxic mix: police work and reality show TV cameras. Here's senior reporter Tony Plohetsky.
Do me a favor and step out of the car real quick, okay?
For 18 months, the show Live PD turned the Williamson County Sheriff's Office and several of its deputies into reality TV stars. But 2 days after the KVUE defenders exposed the death of Javier Ambler, and amid a national controversy this summer about policing in America, producers ended the highly rated cable show. When the state legislature convenes next month, lawmakers plan to ban shows like it from ever partnering with Texas law enforcement agencies again.
When you watch that footage, you can see that those deputies were being more aggressive than they otherwise would have, and that's because they were more interested in boosting their ratings than protecting a citizen. They were more interested in becoming a reality TV show star than serving our neighbors.
State Representative James Tallarico, a Democrat from Round Rock, has filed a bill to ban reality TV crews from filming, quote, peace officers while acting in the line of duty for the purpose of creating a reality television show. The bill is the latest development in the aftermath of reporting by the KVUE defenders, which first obtained this video in June showing deputies using tasers on Ambler as he cried that he had congestive heart failure and could not breathe. House Bill 54 is also named the Javier Ambler Law.
Our community failed him in that moment, but hopefully through legislation like this, we can save others who may be victims of police violence.
In the following months, we also showed other examples of controversial policing tactics while the show filmed, including this apparent made-for-TV no-knock arrest of a man who sat peacefully in court hours earlier, and other force encounters aired on the show. This video showing Ambler's death was from an Austin police officer who arrived on the scene. The Live PD video never aired. In September, a Williamson County grand jury indicted Sheriff Robert Chody on an evidence tampering charge for his alleged role in destroying Live PD footage of Ambler's death. Chody was defeated in the November election.
There's so many facets that beg for our response.
Senator John Whitmire, the state's longest-serving member of the Senate, said he plans to push for his colleagues in that chamber to pass the Javier Ambler Law.
No doubt in my mind that had everybody performing for the cameras instead of doing their duty of protecting the public, including Mr. Ambler.
Ambler's family approached lawmakers this summer. They had not known before then about the details of his death. Ambler's sister Kim said she and her parents wanted to do something that would have a lasting impact on policing in Texas.
It means a lot to me and my family. You know, I feel like, honestly, if YPD wasn't there that day, my brother would still be here. I honestly believe that in my heart. So in order to not have anyone else deal with this, I feel like this bill is very important. I feel like police work isn't for entertainment.
Tallarico says he has heard from lawmakers on both sides of the political aisle indicating that they will support his bill. He says those lawmakers say that they want Texas to have confidence in law enforcement agencies. At the state capitol for the KVUE defenders, Tony Plohetsky, KVUE News.